This video is sponsored by Keeps. So through 3 weeks of NFL action, it's already been a hell of a ride. And while some of our rides keep breaking down on the side of the road, some other stable fans are having a nice, comfortable trip. And while some of the bandwagons seem to be running out of gas, you still got a couple of them that's on cruise control. But through 3 weeks has already been a crazy season, so regardless to how you riding, you better be damn sure your whole fan base is strapped in and expecting the unexpected. Here are 3 quick stories from the NFL season that have already began to make this year unlike any other. Other than that, y'all already know what time it is, man. Cue the Wayne. Alright, before we jump into today's video, I have to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Keeps. Now the numbers say 2 out of 3 men will experience some type of male pattern baldness by the time they hit 35. But like most things, the best way to combat this is by getting out in front of it and saving your hair while you still got some on your head. Keeps offers treatments that have been proven to combat hair loss. They've also revolutionized the way men are treated for hair loss, and it's both affordable and convenient. They deliver right to your door every 3 months, so you ain't gotta be standing in line or having awkward conversations at the pharmacy. Now the process can take about 4 to 6 months to start working, so you wanna get out in front of this as quickly as possible. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/FlemLo or click the link in the description to get 50% off your first order. Again, that's keeps.com/FlemLo, and that'll save you 50% off your first order. So thanks again to Keeps for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, let's get into it. So being a quote-unquote stopgap quarterback is one of the most unstable jobs that you're going to be able to find, period. If you play a little bit too well while your team is tanking, you could lose your job. If your team happens to draft another quarterback in the first 4 or 5 rounds, you're gonna lose your job. And of course, we all know the big one, injury. If you get hurt, you're gonna lose your job. Tyrod Taylor has lost starting quarterback jobs in almost every way listed on here. But prior to week 2's game versus the Chiefs, Tyrod lost his job in one of the most unbelievable, just one of the craziest, just most shocking ways that nobody really saw coming. The Chargers team doctors actually punctured this man's lung while giving him a routine injection to manage pain from a cracked rib. When I first heard about this, bro, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I've never heard of anything even close to this. Like, the team doctor accidentally punctured your lung, bro. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what kind of doctor makes a mistake of this scale? And I'm really getting mad because I'm feeling bad for Tyrod. I'm like, yo, he got to sue the Chargers, sue the league. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's time. Like, somebody got to answer for this. Then 2 or 3 minutes pass by. I'm reading a couple of more articles, and apparently this is a pretty well-known potential complication when it comes to injections of any kind, like in this area of the body, especially when it's a quote-unquote blind injection where the doctor can't see where the needle is going. Still, this has to be at least in the running for the worst possible ways to lose your starting job. Your own team doctor makes a huge mistake that could have been a lot worse than you just losing your job, by the way. And you just so happen to have a rookie first rounder sitting pretty right behind you. Now, of course, Tyrod already understands that at some point this thing is going to be turned over to Justin Herbert. Tyrod is not the long-term solution here, but I can promise you he didn't think it was going to be that quick, and he didn't think it was going to be because his own team doctor made such a huge mistake like this. Thanks to the punctured lung, Tyrod is going to miss at least 2 to 3 games, if not more. And I'm sitting here thinking like, yo, how would you feel if you lost your job to this? You know what I'm saying? Like, that'll be a very difficult thing to get over. But at least for now, the Chargers are saying all the right things. They're saying that when Tyrod comes back, he's going to have his starting job. But then you look and you say, man, Justin Herbert, he looked really good, you know, especially for a rookie. He got in there, he played great against the Chiefs, made a few too many mistakes to pull that game out, and then he looked good again this week. Again, made some rookie mistakes, but look at his upside. You know what I'm saying? Like, the potential that he has versus you already know what you're going to get with Tyrod. You spent this first round draft capital on him. Are you really going to keep your word and give Tyrod his spot back when he's able to play again? Does the team even want that? You know what I'm saying? It's really hard to say. Like, I can see it both ways. I understand it from the emotional standpoint of what happened to Tyrod, just from a fairness standpoint. But then I also understand that the league is sometimes not fair. We know the Patriots started one of the best dynasties we've ever seen after a dude got hurt and backup came in and looked better. There's a few key differences in these situations. Tyrod, once again, pretty much a stopgap quarterback for the Chargers. Drew Bledsoe, when he got his spot took, had just signed a 10-year contract, okay? So the Patriots actually did see him as their franchise QB, and they still went with Brady after Bledsoe's injury. The other big difference being the injury, if we're going to call it that in this case, in Tyrod's case, was actually caused by the team doctors. So it kind of feels like they have a moral obligation to give him his starting spot back. But the harsh, cold, dark reality is if Justin Herbert continues to look good, the majority of people, or at least the people who matter and will make the decision, they're not going to care. They're not going to care in the end. And that sucks, man. It's tough. So this is an extremely interesting one. I'm really hoping things work out for Tyrod in this one because, again, this is to no fault of his own. He literally trying to do the noble thing, go out there and play with an injury already, and, only to be further injured by his own team doctors. This is one we got to keep an eye on. So I'm a Bengals fan, so I know a thing or two about watching your team just find a way to lose a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we got to do? Miss this extra point? Is that what we want to do? We want to miss this extra point? What if we just don't tackle the guy? What if we just helmet to helmet hit AB for absolutely no reason at all? Like, what if we just do that? So again, yeah, I got some familiarity with this. With that said, what the hell is going on in Atlanta, man? They just became the first team ever to blow two 15-point fourth quarter leads in the same season, and they did it in back-to-back weeks. And we all know about the Super Bowl 51 debacle, 20-point lead just completely blown. Begs the question, like, why is this happening so often? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? There's a lot of franchises that struggle in the NFL, and a lot of fans out here, including myself, are frustrated with their organizations and teams. But this is like a whole different level of pain to me because the team is talented, obviously. They keep going up by double digits against other teams and then just melting down. It's one of the craziest things I've seen when a team who is talented enough to be up by 2 possessions in the fourth quarter can't seem to close these games out. And it's crazy, it's unbelievable, but it's also fascinating. All right, so the last thing we're going to discuss today is the elephant in the room. An elephant who's probably dropping all his weight right onto the ACL of your favorite NFL player. The injuries this year have just seemed like they've just been on a whole nother level. The amount of season-ending injuries have been climbing and climbing and climbing unbelievably fast. Now, most people believe that a lack of preseason and all of the pandemic protocols in camp with limited contact are directly responsible for all of these injuries. And other people are arguing against that, saying that the big injuries that we're really paying attention to are not injuries that are commonly associated with being out of shape. Like, we're not talking about a soft tissue injury ending your season in week 2. So while we've had a bunch of soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, groin, stuff like that, those not really the ones that people have been talking about. We've been talking about the ACLs, the Achilles, those types of injuries, you know what I'm saying? And the side that says preseason has nothing to do with it is basically arguing that these are the type of injuries that are going to happen regardless, whether you have a preseason and whether you don't. And some of them are saying that instead of this happening in week 1 or week 2, it would have just happened in the preseason, which would have been even worse. They make a fair point, like they could be right. And I'm damn sure not no expert on it, but But I can recall listening to athletic trainer Paul Favorites on his podcast, and dude trains a lot of high-level athletes, mostly NBA guys, but dude is an expert on injury prevention and performance training. I've heard him talk a lot about like building a base and slowly building an athlete up to their season. And he says that gradually builds up their ligaments and tendons and even cartilage, you know what I'm saying? But if you ramp up too fast before your body is ready to go, that's when you have those like major injuries. And even though he's talking about this in a completely different context, like he wasn't talking about NFL injuries at all. I'm just going off a piece of information I heard from him and just kind of relating it to something else that I'm thinking about, because I damn sure don't want to put words in this man's mouth. This was just my interpretation, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like it really makes sense in this context, because when you have a preseason, you go through camp, you gradually build up to week 1. And I'm talking about like starters specifically, because most of these catastrophic injuries, that especially the ones triggering our mind, is Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, stars, like starters, okay? So I'm saying it in that context. So you build up slowly to preseason week 1, and then boom, go all out for a drive. Go sit on the side, go through practice the next week, slow, build back up. That second weekend, okay, boom, you might go a whole quarter. Then you're gonna back off, chill. So you might not play in week 3 at all, but then in week 4, you're gonna play the whole first half, and then they pull you out. So by the time the regular season starts, you then slowly and gradually kind of built up to this point so that your body is more ready to go full speed and just react when you really have to, when you got grown men flying at you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot different than playing controlled in practice to like truly going all out there on the field. And while it's honestly just a random thought, I think it's one of the better arguments to keep preseason around. You know what I'm saying? At least 2 or 3 games. And I know the NFL has been talking about expanding their season, maybe adding a game or 2 to the regular season. And I honestly think that would be fine, but I feel like the lead up time would need to be that much longer. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you need way more roster spots. That way guys ain't gotta play all them damn snaps. But if the NFL adds more regular season games while simultaneously shortening the preseason, which I think is what they've talked about, I think that is a really bad idea. You're gonna give players less time to build up to the season and then give them a longer season. So the real smart players that's gonna get out in front of it are gonna adjust their training like outside of what the team is doing so that they could try to build up properly. But I think it could be really bad if coaches don't adjust the playing time, and before you know it, your favorite running back is gonna be load managing in the middle of the season, and nobody wants that. Also, just to poke a quick hole in that theory, I was also wondering, like, okay, why doesn't this seem to happen to college players when they don't have a preseason at all? And the only thing I could think of is the fact that they do have spring ball, and then also, of course, they're younger, so age could, play a part in how long you need to be able to ramp up to that. Because I know I'm like that personally. As some of y'all know, I tore my hamstring completely last year, and it's because I was doing too much too soon. Again, that's a soft tissue injury, so not exactly apples to apples, but I know for a fact I ramped up too fast, and since I got that injury, I've been on super slowly ramping up to kind of get to a point where I'm feeling good again. Anyway, this was a different type of video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget, bro, click the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're brand new. My name is FlemLo Raps. I'll let you next time, fellas.